What's up guys, LeopoldTheBrave here, and it's time to re-review Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time. Why? Well, it's been 4 months, so it feels a bit thematic. Also, I feel like that's enough time for the recency bias to pass, so we can get a more objective opinion on the game. But also, today, Crash 4 was just announced for Nintendo Switch and PC, coming in March, and PC later. And it's also coming to the next-gen consoles, so everything's sorta working out for this re-review. Except for maybe the background noise. Apologies if you hear a few knocks in my audio, but we have some guys over here working on the roof. They're doing a great job, so just bear with me. So anyways, it's been a good 4 months since Crash Bandicoot 4. There's plenty of time to beat the game several times over, take a couple breaks, 100% it, 106% it, make a review of it, watch a ton of reviews of it. There's been plenty of time to get everything the game has to offer, both inside the game and the community outside. And back when it first came out, I said it was one of the best Crash games ever made, and it was more than a worthy successor to the original trilogy. Is that still true? Let's talk about it. Now, I haven't played Crash 4 in over a month. Throughout the entirety of January, I was addicted to Puyo Puyo Tetris and was trying out the No More Heroes series for the first time. But I was surprised to find that when I hopped back into Crash 4 after that entire month, everything still stuck. The controls still felt fluid and responsive, the platforming in general was still really fun, and I even beat some of my old time trials in one go. It just goes to show that as far as the core gameplay and controls, it really does feel like a proper follow-up to the original trilogy, as it matches and evolves their control scheme. And of course, the Quantum Masks were always fun to see and use again, except for Ika Ika, he's still wonky sometimes. But I do like seeing the really cool boundary-breaking speedrunning strats people do with him. I'm still not a huge fan of the rope swinging mechanic though. I know it's such an itty-bitty thing to complain about, but it's really slow, breaks up the pace of your momentum, especially during time trials, and they could have just put more platforming challenges there instead. Other new mechanics though, like the rail grinding, ziplining, and wall running, were still really fun. And of course, so were the new playable characters. Now, admittedly, while Cortex and Tana's gameplay didn't hit quite as hard as they initially did when the game came out, Dingo Daz was still fun, I still enjoyed revisiting them. Inverted mode could be a lot better though. I think that's a very valid criticism a lot of people have made about the game. Extra collectibles aside, a lot of the filters hurt my eyes, and I have very sensitive eyes, and the ones that didn't just weren't that interesting. If they bring this mode back in future Crash games, hopefully they tone down the amount of bright filters and also come up with more that change the flow of gameplay. One idea I had was to make all of the ground work like a trampoline, so you're just constantly bouncing, and you have to keep track of the timing of your jumps and double jumps a lot better. Or they could just simply make all the floors slippery like ice. There's plenty of ideas, so hopefully they flesh that out in the next game. The new mode I think they totally nailed first try though are the flashback tapes. Those are still really fun to revisit. Not only is it addicting to just bounce on this massive chain of crates, but it's also really fun to use your brain again because there's a lot of these that you just can't memorize the solutions to, so it's like a brand new puzzle even though you've done it before. We're gonna get a little bit more criticism heavy, but bear with me here, I'll try not to drag it on too long. I'm still not a big fan of how the boss battles work. They're still all kinda the same to me, just dodging generic green, red, and purple projectiles until you're able to throw an enemy at the boss, rinse and repeat. You don't actually get to fight the bosses, just pop them out of these metal containers pretty much. So hopefully in future games they have more interactive boss battles where you actually interact with the boss. I also still am not a huge fan of this game's story. Obviously, Crash Bandicoot doesn't need anything super complex or super serious, but just something a little bit more in-depth wouldn't hurt. Crash has always taken loads of inspiration from cartoons throughout the ages as this franchise has gone along, so I was just expecting something a bit more lore-heavy like most modern cartoons these days, especially since Crash kinda missed out on the beginning part of that craze throughout his nearly 10-year hiatus. But the story to this game, despite being a continuation to the original trilogy's story, still felt very standalone and episodic. It wasn't all bad though, of course, there were still plenty of good jokes and brilliant animation. Not to mention, all the new voice actors did a fantastic job. I just wish Coco and Tana were written a bit better. I miss Coco's fun, playful sass, and I wish Tana actually showed the effects of her trauma relating to losing Crash and Coco in her timeline. But oh well. On to the big one, the 106% completion requirements. And honestly, I think they're fine. The perfect relics may be a bit much, but that's about it. Throughout your first run, you're likely to get well over half the gems. All the Wumpa gems are pretty much guaranteed. There's plenty of levels where you'll get all the boxes first try, get through without dying 3 times first try, and even find the hidden gem first try. The colored gems are more fun and unique to get this time around, the time trials are a completely different way to play, and the flashback tapes are really fun to perfect. When the game first came out, everyone was super excited when they saw how much they had to collect, practically licking their lips at the potential of the challenge. But then a few big YouTubers who reviewed the game said it was a bit too much for them specifically, and everyone decided they agreed. I think that's a load of baloney. None of us Crash fans have ever beaten a Crash game 100% on our first try. Not even Crash to Insanity, which is probably the easiest Crash game to 100%. So I do think people are exaggerating the difficulty of 100%ing this game and even 106%ing this game, and that's coming from me, someone who's still trying to do the former. But overall, that's Crash Bandicoot 4 It's About Time re-reviewed. So what do I think? Well, none of the flaws I initially had when I first played the game 4 months ago have really gone away or diminished any. Meanwhile, there are some positives that have faded. But that's not the game's fault, and it doesn't make it a bad game. That's just the natural passage of time. In a few years when I revisit this game, it may be the reverse, where some flaws turn into positives. At the end of the day though, you guys should form your own opinions on this game instead of just listening to some random person on the internet. Because even if something is objectively a flaw, you could still end up enjoying it. Again, like Ika Ika, he's a part of the game that's literally broken. You can perform out-of-bounds speedrun strats with him. But he's super fun and I enjoy him and don't view it as a negative. Why do you think so many people like To Insanity with all its bugs so much? But anyways, let me know what you guys think of Crash 4. Does it still hold up for you or has it gotten worse? Or even better? Let me know in the comment section below and I'll see you guys next time. Leopold the Brave, out.